and all praise to Allah, the Lord of all universe. I shall seek reward from you for this sacrifice, for surely, his death is among the greatest worldly calamities. May Allah bless Malik with mercy. No doubt, he faithfully dispersed his charge and completed the appointed term of life and met his Creator, while we have reconciled ourselves to forbear every adversity after being bereaved of the Prophet, peace be upon him and his progeny, for that was the greatest calamity for 1. Abul Fida. 2. Francesco Gabrieli. The Arabs, A Compact History, p. 69, 1963. 3. The Restatement of the History of Islam and Muslims by Sayyid Razwi. 4. Al-Amali by Sheikh al-Mufid. 9th session Hadith 4. Anywhere. At last, Ali declared in the Mosque of Kufa that he would leave the city with the few of his faithful followers in an attempt to halt the Syrian aggression against Iraq, even if it cost him his life. This threat awakened the citizens of Kufa to the specter of being left leaderless if Ali was killed fighting against the Syrians. They were stung into action, and they began to mobilize for defense. The Battle of Siffin had been the first trial of strength between Ali and Muawiyah. Militarily, the battle had been a near victory for Ali, but politically, it had become a stalemate. After some time, it began to appear that Ali would take up the challenge of Muawiyah. But just then Ali was assassinated in the Mosque of Kufa, and the second trial of strength never took place. According to the historical accounts, some of which are quite plausible, 3 Kharjis met in Kufa, some say in Makkah, to hatch a conspiracy. Each of them volunteered to kill each of the 3 leading political figures of the Dar al-Islam: Ali, Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As. By killing them, it is alleged, they hoped to put an end to civil wars in Islam, and to restore peace to the Muslim community. One of the 3 conspirators was a certain Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam. He stayed in Kufa to kill Ali, and the other 2 went to Syria and Egypt to kill Muawiyah and Amr al-As. The plans of the would-be assassins of Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-As, according to the stories in circulation, went awry, and they were captured and were executed. The Kharjis had been defeated at Nairwan, and most of them had perished in the battle, but a few had escaped. Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam was one of those who had escaped. He was consumed with the desire to kill Ali, and was in quest of an opportunity to do so. By a coincidence, he met a Kharji woman, one Khatama, whose father and brothers had also been killed in Nairwan, and she too had nursed an undying hatred of Ali. Abdur Rahman fell in love with Khatama, and proposed marriage to her. She told him that the price of her hand was the head of Ali ibn Abi Talib. This only strengthened Abdur Rahman in his resolution. He promised his lover the moon if she asked for it, but she said that nothing was of interest to her if she could not get the head of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam carefully worked out his plans to kill Ali. A few other trusted Kharjis also volunteered their services to him, and together they rehearsed the assassination. Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam took one extra precaution. He put his sword in deadly poison, and let it soak in it for 3 days. On the morning of the 19th of Ramadan of the year 40 AH, Ali came into the great mosque of Kufa, and called Adhan, the call to prayer. He took his place in the alcove, and moments later the worshippers began to arrive. They stood behind him in serried ranks, and the prayer began. Standing in the front row, with other worshippers, were Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam and his confederates. They were watching Ali's movements. In the folds of their cloaks, they were carrying swords burnished to a high sheen and soaked in poison. Just when Ali touched the ground with his forehead for sajda, Abdur Rahman ibn Muljam stepped out of his row, and crept into the alcove. And just when Ali lifted his head from the ground, Ibn Muljam struck the fatal blow at his forehead with such deadly force that it split open. Blood squirted from Ali's forehead in several streams, and he exclaimed, "By the Lord of the Kaaba, I am successful." The members of the congregation realized what had happened, and as soon as they concluded the prayer, they surrounded him. His sons, Hassan and Hussein, carried him to his house. A physician came and tried to dress the ghastly wound but could not stop the bleeding. The blow of the sword was fatal anyway, but the poison from its blade was also spreading rapidly in his body. The Arab historians say that it was the second time that Ali was wounded in the forehead, the first time being when, in the Battle of the Trench fought in 627, the sword of Amr ibn Abd Wad cut through his shield and helmet and struck it. His forehead still bore the scar left by the sword of Amr. This is the account left by the Arab historians of the assassination of Ali, and the vast majority of the Muslims have accepted it as authentic. Though this account has the authority of consensus of the historians behind it, its authenticity, nevertheless, is suspect on the grounds of circumstantial evidence. There are too many coincidences in it. No one questions the fact that it was Ibn Muljam who killed Ali. But was it his own idea to kill him? It is quite probable that someone else who used subliminal techniques for doing so planted the idea in his mind. Ibn Muljam didn't know that he was only a cat's paw, and he went ahead and killed Ali. At this time no one in Dar al-Islam was more interested in the assassination of Ali than Muawiyah. The plot to kill Ali, the skill displayed in its execution, and its success, show the touch of consummate subtlety and a high degree of professionalism that were characteristic of Muawiyah alone, whereas Ibn Muljam was nothing more than a bumpkin. Muawiyah employed the same skill in removing from the scene real or fancied threats to his own security and power, on numerous other occasions in later times. With the same results. Muawiyah's spies had informed him that Ali was preparing for the invasion of Syria. In the Battle of Siffin, Muawiyah had not responded to chivalrous treatment by Ali. This time, therefore, Ali had decided not to fight a lingering action but a swift one that would quell Muawiyah's rebellion and would restore peace to the embattled empire of the Muslims. Muawiyah also knew that Ali had, this time, both the ability and the resolution to bring the conflict to a speedy and successful conclusion. His only hope, therefore, for his safety in future, as in the past, lay in the succor that he could get from his old and trusted allies, treachery and intrigue. He, therefore, mobilized them, and they didn't disappoint him. Muawiyah made the act of the assassination of Ali look spontaneous and convincing by making himself and his crony, Amr ibn Az, the potential and intended victims of the conspiracy and fanaticism of the Kharji anarchists. But both escaped assassination by a rare stroke of good luck. One of them fell ill on the day he was to be assassinated, and did not go into the mosque. The other did not fall ill, but went into the mosque wearing his armor under his cloak. He was attacked by his assassin but was saved by his armor. Falling ill would have been an indiscreet act and would have exposed both victims in this manner. Illness and the armor saved both Muawiyah and Amr ibn Az from the daggers of their Kharji assassins, but Ali was not so lucky. He did not fall ill, and he did not put on his armor when entering the mosque. In the mosque, Ibn Muljam was awaiting him with a sword soaked in poison. When Ali arose from sajda, he struck at his forehead and cleft it. The blow proved to be fatal. Most of the Arab historians wrote histories that were inspired by Muawiyah and his successors. He was, of course, free to inject any account into those histories. He, therefore, managed to save himself and Amr ibn al-As from the indictment of history, and it was Ibn Muljam alone who went down in history books as the real and the only villain of the crime. By a coincidence, the assassination of Ali took place on the eve of his invasion of Syria. Though the Kharji anarchists had aimed their daggers at all three of the leading political figures of the Muslim world, viz. Ali, Muawiyah and Amr ibn Az, by a coincidence, the latter two escaped the attempts on their lives, and Ali alone was killed. By still another coincidence, the two men who escaped, i.e. Muawiyah and Amr al-Az, were intimate friends of each other, and both of them were, coincidence again, the mortal enemies of the third, i.e. Ali, who was the only one to be killed. There are too many mysterious coincidences that saved the lives of Muawiyah and Amr ibn al-Az but took the life of Ali. Ali spent the time still left to him in prayer and devotions, in dictating his will, in giving instructions to his sons, ministers and generals regarding the conduct of the government, and in urging them all never to forget the old, the sick, the poor, the widows and the orphans at any time. Ali declared that his elder son, Hassan, would succeed him as the head of the kingdom of heaven. on earth, and as the sovereign of all Muslims. Though Ali was steadily weakening from the loss of blood and from the action of poison, all his faculties were sharp and clear right to the last moment. To all those people who came to see him, he said that they ought to be aware, always, of the presence of their Creator in their lives, to love Him, to serve Him, and to serve His creation. The poison had done its work, and on the morning of the 21st of Ramadan of 40 AH, Ali ibn Abi Talib left this world to go into the presence of his Creator whom he had loved and served all his life. He was God intoxicated. His greatest ambition in life was to wait upon his Creator, every moment of his existence, and he realized it, and this is the meaning of his exclamation in the alcove of the mosque, when he felt the edge of the sword at his forehead. By the Lord of the Kaaba, I am successful. Hassan and Hussein washed the body of their father, draped it in a shroud, offered the funeral prayers for it, and then buried it silently at midnight at Najaf Ashraf, at some distance from Kufa. No markings were placed on the grave, and the gravesite was kept a secret, as desired by Ali himself. Ali, Islam's greatest saint, hero, statesman, philosopher, and martyr, had left this world, and the world was not to find a man sublime like him to all eternity. Many among the Muslims were the mourners of Ali's death, but none mourned him more dolorously than the dhimmis, the Jews, the Christians, and the Magians. They were utterly heartbroken. And when the sick, the disabled, the cripples, the orphans and the widows in the empire heard that he had died, they felt that their world had collapsed. He had been a father to them all. He had taken them all by the hand. He had taken them all into his prayers. Many among them did not know until after his death that it was he who had fed them and had taken care of them. He had taken all mankind into his grasp. Whereas Ali was always accessible to the poor and the weak, his own greatest anxiety and fear were lest any of them be inaccessible to him. It was only in his dominion that the dhimmis won, the powerless and the defenseless enjoyed complete security. No one could terrorize them or exploit them. With his death, their security was gone forever. It is a truism that exercise of power cannot be combined with saintly purity, since once a man assumes responsibility for public affairs, the moral simplicities within which it is just possible, with luck, to be able to lead a private life, are soon hideously complicated to an extent that